Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Fan Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. So come get some. CromCon.
Hey, we want to shout out to our sponsors, Daytona Beach Comic Con. If you are a fan of comic books, if you're a fan of comic book conventions, and if you like meeting comic book creators and getting comics and comic-related stuff, then you need to make your plans to attend Daytona Beach Comic Con. This year's show is September 7th and 8th. Silverline will be there, so you should make your plans to be there too. We'll see you there. If you like comics and find yourself in the Orlando, Florida area, doesn't everyone come to Orlando at some point in time to see the House of Mouse? But when you're here, you need to make it a point to visit Coliseum of Comics, especially the one on East Colonial Drive. They carry Silverline comics, even a limited edition Coliseum of Comics version of our comics. So, when you go, be sure to ask for Silverline Comics and tell them we sent you. OCD stands for Orlando Collector Deviants. OCD, Steve and Trish. They're a family of geeks who promote geek things, particularly those around the Orlando, Florida area. They're big supporters of Silverline, and we think you should be supporters of theirs too. Go give them some love. If you are an independent comic book maker and you need to get your independent comics made, you need to look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our books, and they do a bang-up job. They're not only trusted by Silverline, but many, many independent comic book makers. Head on over to kablam.com and see for yourself just how easy it is to have your comic printed by them. And tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Gilbert, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday night as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
Hello, good evening, Wednesday Wham! How are we all doing today?
Ecstatic to be alive. How are you?
Doing wonderful. Welcome to the Silverline Wednesday Wham, everyone. We're home of such wonderful comics of Sniper and Rook, which is done by our own John Middich down below, and Wolf Hunter, which I colored. Woohoo! I'm supposed to be working on number 2, slow but sure coming out. Trumps is now available through Diamond Previews, which means you can get it in your comic stores. Get this book. It is a wonderful
Order
book.
by December 20th. Yes.
It is awesome. All right. Actually, I should probably make a call to my local comic shop for that. Cat and Mouse or flagship title. It is a awesome tale. Go look for that. And K-List, the ultimate dad comic. Get that for your dad for Christmas. If you do it now. And Divinity by Barb Kalberg, who is not joining us tonight, I don't believe. But if she does, she's the wonderful Empress of Inks. And to my right,
civilization.
Possibly your left, is Rob Davis, or Venerable Slinger of Inks and Pencils. And
right
down below,
metric thing, or
down below we got John Middich, who does Sniper and Rook. So how are we doing there, gentlemen?
I am good. I'm good. Long day. Just got home from work. Had dinner ready. Best wife in the world. I'm so grateful. And if you guys don't mind, I'm gonna grab some tater tots and some. What was this?
Pass one up. Pass one up.
So yeah, I could fax you guys some tater tots. Properly
Pass
browned.
one up, man.
Where's those beam? What is the transport beams from Star Trek when you need them?
Or, even better, just get one of the food replicators from Next Generation.
There you go.
You do that. You get whatever you
Tater
want.
tots. Hot.
Yeah, lots of them. So, gentlemen, tonight's topic actually came to mind when I got a note from our fearless leader's significant other, wonderful wife and partner, BJ, saying, all right, what are you guys going to talk about on the 13th? And I'm in the car with my kid going to school, and I'm like, okay, kid, what am I talking about on the 13th? And he threw out something about sidekicks. I'm like, I love that idea. So sidekicks, assets or liabilities, thinking we could kind of rank some of the best to the worst. And kind of throw some of them out there, like, hey, this is this is an example of a great sidekick, and why this was a lousy sidekick, and why, and going back to creating characters like we've talked about the last few weeks or months. If we were going to create a sidekick, what are some of the things that we would want to include? What are some of the should do's when creating a sidekick? Or don't do's to when creating a sidekick. So we could take this conversation a million directions.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
first of all, what is shall we define our terms? What is a sidekick? What is considered a sidekick?
That is a great place to start.
That's the bottom line. What is a sidekick?
Let's go. Anybody want to take a stab at it?
I asked the question, and I'll try to answer it. I think one of the original sidekicks is Dr. Watson.
Very true.
It.
Yeah.
So literarily, what the sidekick is for is to give someone or the protagonist to talk to explain what he's thinking, and it's a literary device in order for and it's also someplace for the reader to jump in. You can empathize through the sidekick.
You kind of see it through their eyes. They're your introduction to the story.
In the case of Sherlock Holmes, they're the normie up against the super mind of Sherlock Holmes. So you can more personally identify with Watson than you can with Holmes. Plus, he's someone that can help bring things to the fore with a literary device that's harder to do in narration or in third person descriptions. So I think mostly they started out as a literary device to help the protagonist explain what's going on. So, and someone for the reader to identify with. That's what I think a sidekick is.
I think you nailed it. With comic books being such a visual medium. So if we're going to talk about, in terms of taking it away a little bit from the old school literary, novels, books, and adapting it to our TV shows, to our comic books, to movies. Absolutely. So the first thing when you were, that I was thinking of when you were saying that it's a way for them, the hero, to express stuff and explain things for the watcher, the reader to understand. Mm-hmm. I was picturing the Batman 66 TV show. Right. So if it was just Batman figuring out what the Riddler was doing and what the Joker was doing, it would just be all in his head. There'd be no reason for
they have to do word balloon. They have to do thought balloons throughout the show.
So he wouldn't have to explain anything to anybody, and we would just
old chum. The answer to the riddle is.
So there you go with Robin. It's somebody to bounce ideas off of.
Right.
You had mentioned about the reader, watcher, whatever, connecting with the characters. I can tell you absolutely, when I was a child, I did not want to be Batman. I wanted to be Robin. Robin was awesome. Yeah. Robin's still awesome. So, definitely as people age and progress, I think that's definitely something too. Your example first about Watson. Watson wasn't a young'un. That seemed to be kind of where comics went and got stuck for a while. That a lot of their sidekicks were young. Hey, Martin's got a young sidekick with him.
Yeah, there's my sidekick.
Hello, sir. How are you?
What's your superhero name?
I'm not telling.
You're not telling?
So that's a secret identity. Smart boy.
Yeah, that's actually You're Here.
Oh, now there's two.
Identity.
Oh, so there's You're Here and Seafar.
Hello there.
Yeah.
Hey guys.
Are the boys twins?
Yes, they are.
Oh wow, very cool. Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah. He says, "Nice to meet you." That's John. Yeah. So they actually have comic characters for themselves. One is based off an eagle, and so his name is Seafar, and the other one is based off of a very big-eared fox. I can't remember what the fox is called, but and his name is Ear Here. So
cool.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Oh yes, and then my little one, the littlest sidekick, he's based off a parrot, and his name is Copier.
Cool. Very cool.
So,
and I love
so
how he left right after he made sure that Dad delivered all of the information properly. He's like, "Okay, Dad, you did your job tonight.
Right,
I know
my job's done. See ya."
So, that's the best kind of sidekick right there.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was just going to jump in on my definition of a sidekick, and I think sidekick is kind of somebody who is not the main protagonist, but somebody who highlights the main protagonist and kind of puts them into a good light, or just kind of enhances them in some manner. So they are not the main character, but they somehow promote or show the main character in some kind of light that enhances their character.
I agree completely.
So I mean, I suppose
that would work with what?
I suppose villains can have sidekicks too. So
the sidekick, one of the things that I had, and that you pretty much said it in just different words, the sidekick needs to bring something to the hero that the hero doesn't have.
Yeah.
So in terms of like the youth, youth energy, jargon for comic books back in the day. You could have Bucky talking slang, but Steve wouldn't necessarily do that. Good connection point there for the readers. So like, what should one look for in creating one? You have to know your hero first, of course. And what is the hero lacking? Why do they need it? And how could a sidekick provide it? Is one of the big things.
Right.
My favorite.
So Batman needs an alternate target, so he sends Robin out in the bright colors so he can get shot at instead.
And obviously Dick Grayson learned because his costume was dark. So he's like, "Oh, forget that. I'm 18, I'm emancipated, and I'm gonna wear the dark clothes." And then it's another young innocent out there in the Downderoos, but it works. Talking about like Batman 66, the TV show. I didn't watch it. I didn't watch the next one until I was a little bit older, but the Green Hornet. I loved the Green Hornet TV show. Dan Williams, loved him as the Green Hornet. His secretary, I forget her name right now. Oh my God, what a crush I had on her.
Yeah.
But Bruce Lee, Kato, as a sidekick. I really liked the parallels that we had with Green. I've always explained the Green Hornet TV show as the Batman TV show if they played it straight.
Yeah,
if it was straightforward, that's what you've got.
And that's partially why it didn't last very long either.
Unfortunately,
they wanted to camp it up, and Van Williams said, and Bruce Lee said, So they stopped. That's why it's only one season.
And
which is sad. I thought it was a better show than the Batman.
And with the Green Hornet, he wasn't that physical. In the show he was a little bit more, than some of the books, but he was not the physical one. He was the brain. He was the one that was undercover as a bad guy. He wasn't really a bad guy. So what did Kato? That's why he was my first one on my list of assets. What did Kato bring to the table? He brought the muscle. He was the brawn, whereas Green Hornet was the brain. And they worked together on the projects. Of course, bringing them into the inner circle, working, looking for advice from Kato as well. So it's not like he was just the brawn, but that was the big thing he brought to the show, the character, and the need for that sidekick.
Yep, and I think you can take that. Who was the Green Hornet? Reed was the grandnephew of who?
Lone Ranger.
The Lone Ranger. That's right. And so we go back to the Lone Ranger had a sidekick as well, someone that he could sit around the fire with and talk about, what they were going to be doing in the next adventure they were having. He'd send Tonto into town, and then he'd get the crap beat out of him. But Tonto was his sidekick in this particular case.
I had those toys when I was growing up. I grew up on those reruns of those two. I had like
Lone
the
Ranger when I was a
big
Clayton
ones.
Moore as the Lone Ranger was just absolutely perfect.
And
but that's so. There's another one.
Yep. What did Tonto bring to the table that Lone Ranger didn't?
Tracking ability, and someone to bounce things off of.
Multiculturalism. So portraying Native Americans in a positive light.
Right.
Partner worthy when that wasn't necessarily the most socially acceptable thing. Which is a fantastic thing.
Yeah, as I understand it too, the original the radio scripts had Tonto talking in pidgin English, and so when they did the TV show, Clayton Moore and Jay Silverheels wanted to update that and have him speak better English, but they were using the old scripts from the radio shows, and they didn't want to update them. They didn't want to spend any money on changing the scripts. So he still talked in pidgin English, which was a shame because Tonto was in the stories, in the pulp stories. He's pretty intelligent. In fact, sometimes he's smarter than the Lone Ranger is.
He definitely had more of the real world smarts in the Old West, in what the Old West was, than Lone Ranger. So the Lone Ranger was almost kind of like the colonial perspective. Of moving across, the Great Plains, whereas Tonto is a native. He knows this, and really, Lone Ranger needed Tonto way more than Tonto needed the Lone Ranger. So.
Yes, exactly. Heck, he's the one that saved it. Do you know anything about the Lone Ranger, Martin? You seem to be puzzled by our discussion of him. Are you aware of him at all?
No. No. Well, you guys keep cutting in and out, so I do apologize. But I do know Lone Ranger and Tonto. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Hi, Yo Silver. So yes. So speaking of the wisdom of Tonto, so Lone Ranger and Tonto are looking up at the night sky, and Tonto says, "Do you notice anything?" And Lone Ranger says, "Oh, I see the stars and the marvelous works of God, and we're such a tiny little speck in this vast universe." And Tonto says, "Nah, stupid, someone stole our tent."
Yeah.
Cute. Nice.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's also done with Watson and Holmes too, but yes. That same joke. That's a great joke. Yeah. But so that's what who are some other sidekicks we could think of? Another one for Captain America would be the Falcon.
That's actually where I was going to.
Yeah.
When after we talked about
the next on the list,
Tonto bringing in the multicultural aspect, that was definitely one of the reasons that Sam Wilson was partnered with Cap in the 70s.
Exactly.
That he was, it was
diversity. Yep.
To give diversity of stories, diversity of perspectives, really allowed Captain America's perspective in view of the country and the world change. It's not just beating up Nazis anymore. It's like, hey, what's going on in our own country? And some of this is not so cool. So, that was a wonderful use of bringing Sam in as a co-host, like a co-title.
Yeah, he wasn't. I wouldn't have really necessarily say he was a sidekick, although it was still Captain America's book. But they were kind of co-equals in that, which was another aspect that I think they were trying to bring into it too.
Because Sam wasn't young.
Yeah, right. He wasn't young. Yeah, you also have sidekicks like for the original Captain Marvel, Shazam. He had Woozy Winks, if you'll recall, if I remember right.
Is that the like Gazoo of from like the Flintstones, like that woozy guy? Was that like a little comic relief, little
exactly? Yeah,
he
wore a straw. He wore one of those flat straw hats, and he was kind of plump, and he was the idiot. The lovable idiot
from Flintstones or the Scrappy Doo from Scooby Doo, the idiot that nobody liked and wanted there.
Exactly. It was you tripped over him. If he did anything good, it was by accident. If he made anything happen, it was usually by accident. So yeah, but so there's that kind of sidekick as well. So that's the kind that brings in the comic relief.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the aspect that was needed in that particular case, or was they came up with it. I think there could have been plenty of humor in Captain Marvel Shazam, well, without him, but they threw him in there for extra, I guess.
And sometimes extra is not good. It's like the sixth helping at Thanksgiving. It's like maybe you should have stopped at 5. You're kind of Ralph. That's not so good. I was talking to some of the people at work and letting them know about our topic for tonight, and one of them shot out right away, going on Cap, saying Bucky. Bucky's one of the greatest sidekicks ever. And I'm like, I'm going to put him on my liability list. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
How many times has the friendship and the kinship that Steve and Bucky share, how many times has that been used against Cap? How many times has that been, Winter Soldier, but even before that, I mean, he wound up being a pawn to derail Cap many times. So that was my take on it. It's like we could look at it. I think
that goes back to the old melodramas where the guy, the protagonist's girlfriend, gets taken by Snidely Whiplash with his mustache, and then she's taken out and tied to the railroad track. She's always in trouble. So I think that's where that probably comes from, is that same that same storytelling device. That's something for the protagonist that he's got to go out and save her. That's some sort of heroic action for him to take. It's lazy storytelling, really. But yeah, that's where that comes from.
So if we've got Bucky, from some point of view, liability. Martin, go ahead.
Go ahead, Martin.
So I was just going to say, Bucky being a liability, and then you go to something like Robin. Robin seems more of an asset than a liability.
I had that on the. We need to talk about which Robin, because I think that the different Robins fall into different categories.
Yeah.
And even if 2 Robins fall into the same category, it's for different reasons.
Yeah.
So I was really interested in getting to the weeds on this one. So yeah, Martin, you're right.
Yeah, well, Tim. Well, I think both Nightwing, Dick Grayson, and Tim Drake were both definitely assets.
Yes,
100%.
Agreed. So, yep, we're in agreement. What would you define as the difference?
Now, I actually know absolutely zero about Jason Todd, other than that he was the first Robin.
Second.
No, he was the second. He was actually the second Robin.
The second. So I don't even know who the first one is.
Dick Grayson.
Shows you what I know. Dick Grayson was the first one. Okay.
Nightwing.
Okay.
Then Jason Todd originally had a origin very similar to Dick Grayson's, and then that got retconned to him being a kid that was boosting.
So I know nothing about the Jason Todd character other than.
And then he had an attitude problem and got himself in trouble, and so he was definitely a liability.
Oh, there he is. You froze for a second there, John, or at least on mine you did.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, you guys keep.
Yeah, yeah, we're having a little bit of bandwidth problem here, probably.
How about now?
I'm good. You're good.
All right, I'll try and talk to keep some interest going here. So
all right. I can hear Martin, but he's not moving.
His picture's frozen now. Yeah.
Are you guys?
you hear us?
You're stuck in the thinker pose.
Yeah.
All right. Stop cam and turn it back on.
Well,
all right,
Martin's
Martin, right
working
now
on
is a
getting
sidekick.
back
Quite the
online,
liability.
yeah.
What's that?
So Jason Todd was a liability, definitely,
Yeah.
and he was such a liability that DC, I still cringe at this whole idea of putting out there for a vote whether Jason Todd as Robin survives,
Live or die.
Yeah, lives or dies, that's just flat out weird to me.
I was in junior high. I thought that was the coolest thing ever, and you had to pay. For like the 1-900 number, and I was telling my parents, like, I want to call like 100 times, and they're like, you're not even calling once. I'm like, But if I remember correctly, and I'm pretty sure I do, I think that the difference between live and die was only like 200 votes. It was
it was actually
close.
Pretty close. And I read somewhere recently that they're actually going to they had both stories written and drawn.
Because
they're actually
they
going to
needed
publish,
both of them to be ready to go to press.
Yeah, they're actually going to publish the live one here sometime in the next year. So that'll be interesting to see what that was like.
Yeah,
but yeah, I thought Jason Todd was not a very good Robin to begin with.
No.
So I understood why people wanted him to go away, but I didn't. The whole voting thing really it made my skin crawl just a little bit. That didn't sit well with me.
That ushered in the ability for them to bring in Tim Drake, who I've always liked. If I was
like Tim Drake,
one of them, I'd want to be Nightwing. I'd want to be Dick Grayson. Because what I like his personality, and what he brought to Batman was the balance, where Batman dark, Robin light, and like Martin said, a target to throw out there for guys to shoot at. But he was the counter to Batman's darkness, and it kept him out of complete dark, and started the foundation of the Bat family. That's why we have a Bat family now. Whereas Jason didn't necessarily perpetuate that at all. And when we get back to Tim Drake now, it was Drake, in the story that even said, hey, I noticed that Batman's acting weird. Everybody's noticing that he's kind of off the rails. And he deduced that it was Bruce Wayne. That was Batman. He didn't even want the job for himself. He was just saying, you need a Robin. You need somebody. And then he wound up putting on the uniform out of necessity. Bruce was not too happy about that at first, and then let him in. And what he brought, that Robin brought, was the 90s, in terms of technology. So it's like computers and research, and to us, we're like, shit, man, we got that like on our phones. But back then, that was big and that was new. So that was updating Robin for New Age. They did away with the little pixie boots. They, got rid of the little Namor looking underwear. Hey, Martin, welcome back. And so then they gave him the was it Tom Lyle that actually did the designs for the new Robin? Because I knew he drew the Robin miniseries.
I don't remember.
I don't remember who did the design work. But they redesigned him to bring him into that age. That's when his cape went from straight yellow to black on the outside, yellow on the inside.
Yeah.
Gave him teams, much more functional. So yeah, he brought a lot to the table as the new Robin. So as far as Batman's even said that, he's become a better detective than Bruce himself has. So that says a lot, so that's the mental skill more than
he seemed to be a natural detective. He took to it immediately, figuring out who Batman was, for one. Yep. I like Tim Drake. I like the character a lot, and he brings that lightness back to the whole Batman family thing. So, yeah.
And as much as Dick Grayson's awesome. I mean, like if I had to choose to be a character from DC, I probably would choose Dick Grayson. Great attitude, funny, guess all the hot chicks. I mean, not so bad. But one of my favorite Robins, and depending on the day, I'll argue it's probably my favorite Robin, is actually Carrie Kelly from Batman Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah, I like
because that was also my junior high days, when I started collecting seriously, and Dark Knight Returns was spellbinding. And you've got, decrepit Batman who's retired and everything's gone to hell. And you've got, these different gangs roving around. And he decides to come out of retirement and he's getting his butt whooped. And you got this girl that shows up in a Robin costume and she saved his butt. And then she's saving him and he's like, what's your name? And she's like, Carrie. He's like, huh? And she's like, Robin, really quiet, not how he was going to take it. I remember she summoned his helicopter or jet, something that was flying in the air, where he was giving the air vehicle the command, to go, and it wasn't responding. And she's like, peel. And it took off.
So she had hacked his
so she went and reprogrammed it, to go along with the kid slang. And I really loved how fearless she was, and that she knew this old man needed something. He needed some help, and she was there and took care of him. Not too much unlike what Tim Drake would wind up doing eventually.
Exactly. Yep.
I very much have always liked Carrie Kelly.
I think maybe she may. I'd have to look at the timeline, but she may have inspired the creation of Tim Drake. So,
on some level,
yeah. So, who else? Jimmy Olsen.
Which one?
For Superman. Jimmy Olsen for Superman.
Asset or liability?
Both actually, depending on the story. Sometimes he did the damsel in distress bit. Of course, Lois Lane also. She actually played the damsel in distress role, but Jimmy would sometimes be like Robin. He would help Superman out of specific jams by bringing in some aspect that hadn't been thought of. But yeah, I would say he was a little bit of both. So, but and I personally don't think he's in the modern age. I don't think he's as good a sidekick now as he was, say, in the 40s and 50s. I think he worked better then than he does now. But for a long time, he was the epitome of the best kind of sidekick. He was. Yeah, not quite an adult, but pretty darn close. So he could kind of take care of himself. But he was the eyes and ears of Superman when he was not in town or whatever. And he had a special watch that he could use to that had ultrasonics that could call Superman. So he was a little different kind of sidekick.
The Superman style Jimmy Olsen comics were a little bit before my time, so I was reading some of those as back issues way later. And so from my perspective, the different generational down to this day, I still never really look at Jimmy Olsen as Superman sidekick. Yeah, I always picture him still as Clark Kent's sidekick more than anything else. Because, the connection with the planet and working there together more than accompanying him on missions and doing things. So you're absolutely right. At the time, he was doing a lot of that stuff back then, and then his role kind of changed.
Okay, so he was an asset to Clark Kent and a liability to Superman.
Perfect.
Yeah, that might be the way to look at that.
I like that.
So, okay. Which is really strange since it's the same person, but
different situations. We talked a couple of weeks ago about the idea of living in two different identities or being two different people or carrying on two different personas. There are two different personas, the Clark Kent and the Superman. So
Yep.
They would each need different things, and could that one person provide both? So yeah, that's a good perspective. I like that.
So here's an interesting question that kind of just popped into my head. So I mean, we have individuals such as Captain America has a sidekick, Batman has a sidekick. Can a team have a sidekick?
Yes.
Who do you got?
Well, in the Avengers, the Rick Jones was the sidekick for the Avengers.
And actually, I was going to bring up Rick Jones as one of the liabilities when we were doing that because of the Hulk. If it wasn't for Rick Jones, there'd be no Hulk because he was out there playing like harmonica in his car on the nuclear blast site, and Banner went out there
on the hood of his jalopy. Yep.
And then he went, and you're absolutely right. He transitioned from just hanging out with the Hulk to the Avengers, and he definitely was his sidekick to the Avengers at that point.
For a short period, he was Captain America's sidekick, but at that point, no one could replace Bucky. Yeah. He wore the Bucky costume a couple of times, but I think they were toying with the idea of making him Bucky, and it didn't work. It's a different time. Back in the 40s, every superhero had a sidekick. I mean, we can go over to DC and pick up a few more.
Actually, I was going to do that with another liability. What about having a sidekick that's a drug addict? Probably not so good.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that Green Lantern?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going for. You know,
okay, Speedy, right?
And,
Plus Green Arrow. Green Arrow,
that's,
not Green Lantern.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry.
Green Arrow. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Green Arrow. Yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
And the thing I kind of really liked, about that storyline is, Robin. You had Batman who got a Robin. And you had Cap who had a Bucky. So like they're just giving away teenage sidekicks like Oprah gave away cars. You get one and you get one and you get one, right? So
you know what the whole idea behind that was is to try
bring the kids in.
Bring the kids in, give them someone to identify with.
Yep, so, exactly. Yeah. So, as they're all coming around, they're almost clones of each other, at the very beginning, it's just somebody young and it's a ward. I mean, take a look at Green Arrow as, compared to Batman as Oliver and Bruce. They both had companies and then they both had these teenagers. So having Speedy go the, oh my God, my sidekick's a junkie storyline, that was world changing. That
it was revolutionary. And
that really redefined who Speedy was and put him on a whole different trajectory for not just rehabilitation but almost redemption, and then he got rid of the Speedy identity and became Arsenal, much like Robin became Nightwing. I'm still undecided.
So there's a lot of parallels there.
Yeah. If we go back to Robin, I still don't know where I want to put Damian Wayne,
which Batman's I know little to nothing about. But apparently, I think he's Batman in waiting.
Batman and Talia, Ra's al Ghul's daughter, kind of like. Mm-hmm. And made a kid that he didn't know about. That was trained to be an assassin.
Last week's guest, he drew that book.
What's that?
Last week's guest drew that book.
Jerry Bingham.
I missed that.
The Ra's al Ghul story.
That's so cool. But so he was trained as an assassin, and when he came on the scene, he definitely was not an asset. At the beginning, he was a disruptor, because he was causing problems between Bruce and Tim. And he's like, I'm going to take that identity because that's my dad. So you're out of here, boy. And, so he really was kind of awful for a while. What wound up happening was Bruce, again, for some reason, gave up the identity. I don't remember why. Well after Bane, it wasn't the backbreaking thing. And Dick Grayson took it back over again. So, Bruce had his back broken. Azrael took it. Nightwing took it back, or took it after Batman took it back. Then we're jumping forward a whole bunch of years. And then, so you had Dick Grayson become Batman, the more calm, subdued, funnier person is now Batman. And the little badass who just wants to kill everybody is Robin. It's weird. And that just made me think of something else. The movie, and I haven't read the comic, the movie Kick-Ass, which is based on the comic book. Have either of you guys seen that?
No,
I've seen parts and pieces. I might have watched a segment of it at one time. I know of it.
So, any of our friends that have been watching Wednesday Wham for a long, long time, when I was regular the first time and before my hiatus, you will remember my dislove for Nicolas Cage. So that was a well-documented thing, and everybody knows. And Tommy Florimonti was with us.
I remember every time it came up. Yeah.
Actually, I sent Tommy a box for Christmas with all Nick Cage movies, one per month to open up in a special envelope, and every movie was tied to a special holiday in that month. Oh yeah, I was. Oh my god, I was like so insane that year. It was fun. But in Kick-Ass, Martin don't like that.
No, I think he's got.
I'll wait for him to come
he's
back.
got some issues back at home. No,
The Sidekicks. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So in Kick-Ass, the kid Kick-Ass doesn't have powers, goes out and gets his ass beat. There's a Batman analog that Nick Cage plays, and he's grooming his daughter to be a hero as well, and he's called Big Daddy, and she's Hit Girl, and she is fierce. Like, she's sitting at the bowling alley with her dad, and he's like, okay, so your birthday's coming up. What do you want? And she's like, oh, for my birthday, I want a puppy. And he's like, what? And she's like, nah, I'm just effing with you, daddy. And then she's starting to talk about like the switchblades that she wants, and like, and all, the other introduction you get to her is he's talking about like, this is a bullet. What's the velocity? What's it going to hit you like? It's going to be enough to take you off your feet, but it won't hurt you because he gave her a bullet. So like, he's shooting this little girl, not even in a costume, across a parking lot. She goes flying backwards, and he makes her do it a few more times before she could go get ice cream, and Hit Girl was awesome. Hit Girl. So Big Daddy winds up dying. And she teams up with Kick-Ass.
Well, no wonder you like the movie. Nicolas Cage's character died. Okay.
But I liked him in this movie. Don't tell Tommy. But the girl who played Hit Girl,
you know exactly what we're going to do right after this is over, right?
She was amazing as a little girl. She was probably in her early to mid teens when she played this.
Who played it? I'm sorry.
Chloe Grace Moretz. She's done some other sci-fi works and stuff.
Name's familiar, but
she was 12 or 13, and she
and like she was violent and vicious and like killing people and just like stabbing them like through doors and just like, wow, that sidekick. What did she bring? She brought the fierceness to Kick-Ass, who had no powers in the movie, at least, really, and was getting his butt kicked all the time. So
yeah. I had issues with that
with the movie.
Which one?
with kick butt
because of all the profanity. She had a potty mouth. Oh my god!
Well, just the notion of putting a child in that position was kind of just.
Yeah, like she was dropping the F-bomb. She dropped the C word.
Yeah.
Really?
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
it's like, wow.
People in real life use those words. So,
yes, they do.
Yeah.
And she was a cool sidekick. I dug her. She was fun. What else? Who else?
Well,
my wife's over here. That's my sidekick.
Okay.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, wife.
So, and definitely
your better half. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna head upstairs.
Okay, I'll see you in a few.
Start working on my homework.
Okay, love you.
Love you too.
R2D2, C3PO. Who's the sidekick?
Ooh.
They're both sidekicks.
Yeah, they're
To
both
who?
sidekicks to Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
Luke or
To each other, really.
Anakin.
Yeah,
Anakin
or
first.
Anakin, yeah.
You know, if there was one of the
They're the
two
comedy
outlaws-
relief. They're the
they
comedy
definitely
relief.
are.
both
That's
of
the
them.
Laurel
Yeah.
and Hardy of the Star Wars universe right there.
Exactly, yes.
If anything, I'd say that it would be 3PO that is R2 sidekick. Because R2 from the very beginning was the one, he's like, I'm on this mission, man.
R2
I'm going
saved
in
the
this
day
escape pod.
over
I'm
and
going
over
this
and
way.
over
I
again.
don't care, that way is easier, you know, and it was always 3PO that was all, you know, and R2's just like, whatever. Yeah. So
Yeah, he's the woozy.
it was kind of
winks.
funny that the one, there you go, the one that looks like a trash can was the one that's really in charge, and the one that's
really the
humanoid
hero.
was
really the
really
hero.
the sidekick. Yeah.
So this brings up a really interesting question. Does a sidekick actually need to do anything? Because C-3PO really doesn't do anything. Like,
Well,
he's just
has
there.
perfected in over
I mean,
six-
he does translate languages, but he doesn't do anything.
The story would be the same whether if you took him out. He's unnecessary. The whole story, but he's the comedy relief.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they tried to do that with Jar Jar Binks in the prequels, and it didn't work.
Bad.
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 Yeah, it just didn't work at all. So yeah.
I thought he was the only good part of those movies, but okay.
Martin, I don't know if we could still be friends. The Canadian thing was pushing it, but
I think the story ideas were fine. It was the execution that was bad. The scripts were, meh, and it just needed needed another set of eyes on it to bring it up that next step that it never
over
got.
the years, though, I've grown to love those two with all of their faults, almost like children. It's like, but I would have loved a lot more Darth Maul and a lot less Jar Jar Binks time. I did not need more of him, but I wanted to see more of that Sith Lord, because I remember everybody going crazy when the trailers were dropping and you see him and he ignites the saber and then the other end ignites and we're like, oh. They tried to capture lightning in a bottle a second time by giving Kylo Ren the sword, and where it goes, and then the cross beams come out. I thought it looked phenomenal, but it didn't have the same resonating effect that Darth Maul introduction did. Yeah.
Nope.
So, yeah, Maul's awesome.
But
All
yeah,
right.
C-3PO and R2-D2 are both sidekicks.
Hmm.
Or if you really want to look at it right, C-3PO is R2-D2's sidekick.
And if you remember
Because
at the end of episode 3, they there was the order given to take the protocol droid and get his memory erased. They never wiped the astromech. So
yeah,
at any time, little R2 could have said, "Oh yeah, Luke, by the way, your dad's Darth Vader." But like, that dude just kept his secrets, man. He's like, "Oh, I just want to see how this plays out."
Well, and that brings up a point. You said C-3PO. I just realized C-3PO did have a role to play.
What's that?
He was the one who understood what R2-D2's bleeps and bloops.
Translator.
He was essentially the voice
translator.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was the translator of what R2-D2 was saying.
All
That's
right.
what
So
was
he had
there
a
for.
function.
And he had a small function. You could have eliminated that and just had him speak. R2-D2 speak, but
that would have not been anywhere near as cool.
No, it
right,
wouldn't have been as much fun.
That would have been like Tweaky from the Buck Rogers TV show.
All right, so in
that was Mel Blanc doing the voice too. And you know,
Mel
as a
Blanc,
kid,
yep.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, as a kid, I loved Tweaky, you know, as a cool concept. But as I got older, I'm like, you know, when I was a kid, my favorites were Tweaky and Aaron Gray. And then as I got older, it's like, hi, Tweaky. Yeah.
So like Batman and Captain America are obvious for sidekicks. So, but like if we go into like the world of, okay, Spider-Man doesn't really have sidekicks.
I was trying to think of some. There were
Black Panther. Like, you know, in Marvel, you don't have. Do you have a lot of sidekicks in the Marvel world? I'm not 100% sure. Like in X-Men, is there anyone who has sidekicks?
Yeah.
You know, the only thing I was able to think about with those would be like, you know, pets,
Kitty
like
Pryde
Lockheed.
had the dragon.
Yep. Like Lockheed. Similar to Teen Titans, they had Silky, like the little moth creature thing, at least in the Teen Titans.
Right, yeah. At least for a short time, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, Superman had Crypto and the cat, whatever the cat's name was.
Yeah, there was that whole time that everybody had to have pets.
And the horse.
Streaky. That everybody had to have cars.
Streaky. Cars that talked.
The Spider-Mobile.
The Arrow car, they had,
Man,
so Ghost Rider is the motorcycle is his sidekick?
No, that would be more like, because it would have to communicate with it more like a Kit Michael Knight type of thing. Oh no!
Okay,
he did not hear what I said.
Yeah, I did.
Thomas.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh.
I think I joined in. It took me this long to get my phone to work.
Oh my God! It's so good to see you, my friend.
So are you Roland's sidekick or is he yours?
That was my sidekick. What do you mean?
It's so good to see you. How you doing?
We're talking sidekicks today, so
yeah. Every Wednesday is my bike riding night where we do the night ride, and so I try to listen in. But then I heard y'all talking smack, and then so I figured I'd better join in. Yeah, and
Did you ever get through all those?
Sent me about 50 CDs of all kind of, and I kept about 10 or 15 of them were pretty good. We kept a bunch of them.
Good. So, Tommy, question for you.
Go at it enough, eventually some of it turns out to be good.
Who would be your favorite comic book sidekick of all time?
My favorite sidekick?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just joined this to yell at you. I didn't join the conversation. To add to the conversation. Favorite sidekick. I know. Hobbs.
Which one?
From Calvin and Hobbes. Isn't he a sidekick?
Calvin and Hobbes.
The line, the
tiger.
Yes.
You're absolutely right.
Oh yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah, because that's what I based off my Zomboid stuff off of, all the Kid Hero stuff I do. It's kind of that imaginary world kind of thing.
Nice. Yeah. I remember reading a story that was not by Calvin and Hobbes' creator, but supposedly the last Calvin and Hobbes story, where Hobbes basically sees Calvin after all these years. You know, Calvin's like almost dead, I think, and the tiger goes to the daughter. You know, and knew it would be. Somebody else wrote it, but it was very nice.
That's a heart-rending little story. It's a great one, though.
Yeah.
Yep.
So could we say then
a Toy Story also did a similar story.
So would it be safe to say that a sidekick could also, you know, one of the important roles would be that it's another character that we actually would have a reason to care about their safety, care about, you know, it gives the hero a humanity level. You know, they need to care about somebody else rather than just justice, vengeance, the knight.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yep.
I kind of always thought the sidekick was the guy that always got beat up, and then the main guy would always have to save him until he got popular enough that he became Robin, and then he became Nightwing or something. Once he became, better than a sidekick, then he became his own book.
He graduated. Yeah.
So well, here's the interesting question: Does the sidekick ever stop being the sidekick, even if he graduates?
Very hard. It's very hard. To
Not to the person he was a sidekick for, right? Because that guy's always going to treat him like a sidekick. Because it didn't always Batman kind of treat Nightwing as not as
that was the biggest issue between
super?
them.
Yeah. So even when Nightwing went off onto his own book, you still felt like he was still
he was
second tier.
Yep.
Even though he was excellent character, excellent stories, excellent everything, you always felt like he was just never. But I mean, that said, he still stands on his own as a thing.
Yes.
But he's always Batman. In my mind, he's always Batman's sidekick, no matter what.
And the thing,
but he was the leader of the Teen Titans as well. So.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that they did do to try to separate him and give him a little bit more grown-up role. That was pre-Nightwing, obviously.
But
then as
with
Nightwing,
Dick becoming Nightwing, that was one of the few evolutions that really stuck. I mean, so like he has identified as that, whereas earlier I mentioned like Speedy, he took on the role of Arsenal. I mean, if you say to somebody Nightwing, people might know who that is, just normal people out there. Ask them who Arsenal is, they're gonna have no clue. So it's if the Winter Soldier movie didn't come out, Captain America Winter Soldier, ask people who Bucky is, they might know. Winter Soldier
exactly.
They wouldn't know. So that plays a role into like whether or not they could graduate. It's really hard for it to happen, to become their own person. And you're absolutely right, guys, that Dick Grayson, Bruce does not look at Dick as an equal, but I think he's still, I think he looks at him more now as a partner than a sidekick partner. One of my favorite.
But if there's a group thing going on or whatever, and Batman's being Batman, and then he comes up as Nightwing, Batman's going to go, you go take care of the washing the clothes.
Batman would do that to anybody though, because that's Batman. One of my favorite issues of Nightwing, and Martin, I thought of this right away when you were talking about, Nightwing will always be like sidekick to Batman in your mind. And it's one of the issues. It's drawn by, written by Chuck Dixon, drawn by Scott McDaniel. Beautiful, beautiful book where Robin, Tim Drake gets sent to Bloodhaven to train with Nightwing. And they're like training on top of a moving train, and they're talking and they're bantering about Batman. And oh my God, Bruce does this. And then Dick's like, yeah, well, when I was there, he did that. And it was kind of really a cool bonding experience where it was almost like creating a brotherhood, And so with that, it's like Batman now has Robin as the sidekick. Nightwing is an intermediary. So it's like, okay, I'll send him off to you for like basic training and then bring him back and do some more, Marine stuff. So, I think there was some evolution in Bruce Wayne's take on or view of Dick Grayson.
I got a weird one.
If we were
What's that, Tommy?
Go ahead, Thomas.
No. You already may have said this. It can only the good guys have sidekicks. Can a villain have a sidekick?
Ooh,
the villain sidekick's just a henchman or whatever. But I mean, can a villain have a sidekick as the same?
Quinn.
Yeah, but is Harley Quinn his sidekick?
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, if we go cartoons
until they transitioned her out of the role.
Poison
So
Ivy.
now you got, what's her name?
Punchline.
Ivy.
To who?
Punchline to Joker. That's his new girlfriend.
Is
Like-
it?
Yeah, so Punchline's a new sidekick, I would say.
Wow.
Oh.
That's actually a fantastic name for a character.
Yeah.
So okay, so
But
one of my
Poison
favorite
Ivy is a sidekick to who?
for which one?
Poison Ivy. Who's she a sidekick to?
No one.
Poison Ivy. Wasn't she Joker
Yeah, I don't think.
person too?
No.
No. She was her own.
She's teamed up with him, but I don't think she's ever.
Yeah.
She's always
No,
been a
they weren't that-
standalone.
They weren't that connected.
I saw them together in my brain.
But like Harley
In my little
and
brain,
Ivy
they were
were
always
dating.
Yeah.
At least, Tommy.
Yeah, I think Tommy's going in a tunnel.
Oh. I know. I'm driving. I'm out in the woods.
Yeah, so
You are so pixelated right now. It's like you're on one of those let's like protect his identity shows. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we wanted to talk a little bit about creating a sidekick. So
hey Martin, can I?
so I think one of the
can I give you a bad guy sidekick? So
Sure.
Going to animation.
Okay.
The Kim Possible TV show that was
Yeah.
on Disney. Love Kim Possible. One of the best.
My
One of the best
favorite
shows ever.
cartoon.
Shigo was Draken's sidekick. Draken was kind of a moron. He was more comedy relief, and she was the fighter. She was the smarter one.
Yes.
She-
It's coming back to me.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
didn't
that
need
was
Draken as
hilarious.
much as Draken needed her. So Shigo was an excellent villain sidekick.
Yeah. So they do make them. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Martin,
All
now
right,
on
so-
to the topic about creating.
Yeah. So creating a sidekick. So I
I need
think
to get.
Tommy, did you say you got to go?
Yeah, I'm starting to get into some traffic. So
You be safe.
Yeah, we don't want
probably
to.
should-
We don't want to be a
You would
distraction.
see what.
yeah.
Oh my.
Yes. Yeah, but a while ago I was the only one on the highway. Now there's all kind of people. So, love you guys. Merry Christmas. If I don't talk
Yeah,
to you before
same.
then,
Merry Christmas,
and
Happy New Year's, my friend.
y'all be good. Bye.
Bye, Tommy. Good seeing you.
Later.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Drive By Tommy Flormonte, who's a spectacular inker. Yeah. So creating a
Very nice
sidekick.
man.
Yes.
And
And-
a purveyor of Nicolas Cage movies, from my understanding.
Right, and the printer at Kablam, which is where you can get your independent comics printed. So yeah, so creating sidekicks. So I think one of the things that is important when creating a sidekick, good or either for a good guy or a bad guy, would be some element of contrast.
Yeah.
So they are somehow a counter. They enhance the main character, but they're also a counter to the main character in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So if the main character is moody and dark and bleak, then that character should be a little bit brighter and lighter. Or if the main character is brighter and lighter, then the sidekick should be a little bit more, serious. So some sort of contrast that happens that ends up, and as mentioned before, adds something that the main character doesn't have, or yeah. So yeah, that was my initial thought on that. I don't know if anyone else has anything else to add.
I think you nailed it. Yeah.
No, I agree with you completely. And I just had a thought because I was trying to think of like other types of media and things. Lost in Space. Dun, 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 dun. I love that show. Grew up on reruns on that one too. Robot.
Yeah.
Arguably would have been the sidekick to Will Robinson. And so that got me thinking. Of course, Robot really played the protector of Will Robinson. So Will could go off and have his journeys and his adventures, usually with bad sidekick, Dr. Smith in tow. But so I was trying to think, are there any other sidekicks that have a role of protector to somebody else?
Huh.
Because that is
That's an excellent question.
Yeah,
Well, Harley Quinn.
Protecting Joker?
Yeah, she you remember she busted him out of Arkham.
Yeah.
In her origin story in the cartoon.
Yeah, I'm thinking more like Big Hero 6 movie, not the comic, like Baymax. You know, he helped the main character whose name I'm forgetting. Oh, jeez. There's got to be some other ones out there. If anybody else thinks of any, please on tonight's post, or please post on tonight's video.
Yeah,
thoughts that you have for other sidekicks that you want us to talk about next
time. Looking at the time, we've got we've gone over we've gone past the hour, which we normally do anyway. But so are we at a point where we can stop? Or
I think so.
I think we covered a lot of the ground there.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's more we could do. There are other sidekicks we didn't even talk about.
Yeah. So anybody who's watching this on any of the platforms, let us know who you want to hear about. Who did we miss? Who did we not talk about that you wanted us to talk about?
Who maybe qualifies as a sidekick that we doesn't quite fit the mold, but is a sidekick. There's probably some like that out there, I would think.
I would love more of indies, because I was trying to think of independent comics. You know, not many of those necessarily had sidekicks that immediately came to my mind. It was the DC followed by Marvel, you know, that had most of them. And then, you know, Kick-Ass just came to mind during the talk tonight. But I was trying to go for indie books, you know, Black and White Explosion, 90s, you know, even Image stuff. I couldn't really think of many.
Well, you know, Nexus has got a couple of sidekicks.
Space Ghost. Yeah. He's got two.
Yeah, Space Ghost is another one. He's got two sidekicks. So
like Robin, because that's Space Batman.
And before we started, Rob and I were talking about Silverline's Cat and Mouse, and we were like, well, is one of those two a sidekick, or are they both primary characters, and is there another character that could be a sidekick? So it was suggested that in Cat and Mouse in the world of Silverline, Demon could be the sidekick.
Yeah, but he fills the role slightly differently than anybody else.
Yeah, he's a supporting character.
Yeah.
Right.
But he's as Martin pointed out when we were talking, he's a linchpin.
Oh yes, he's the center of everything.
So, right. So,
you know, granted it was Cat and Mouse Volume 1, but I know that inside and out. Roland would contact me. He's like, well, what issue was this in? I'm like, this issue, this page, this panel, duh. You know, the Volume 1 of Cat and Mouse, the original from back in the day, Mouse started off as a sidekick because she was following Cat around at night, seeing what he was doing. And she decided to make herself a costume and follow him along. And one day he's like, fine, if you're going to be, you know, he shocks her. She's outside, like, looking in the windows, and where'd he go? And shoves a bag at her. And he's like, you know, if you're going to be following me around, you may as well help. So she started off as a sidekick and then grew into an equal character and then took care of Cat at the very end because he was damaged.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So there's role reversal.
Yeah, that was quite the arc. Yes. It was very fascinating.
I love that book.
Yeah. All right. So, as long as it's a sidekick and not a kick in the side, you're okay.
You caught that. Yeah. For those, that's an inside joke, folks. Tommy Florimonte posted a note on we have a chat board where we talk, and Tommy posted something about sidekicks. Or what? And so I posted back. He said, I need a side.
Alrighty, so
and I said, no, you need a kick in the side. Oh.
All right. Well, gentlemen, shall we say goodnight?
All right.
Yeah, we probably. Well, we haven't completely exhausted it, but we have spent an hour talking about it anyway.
So let's do our make mine.
Silverline.
Make mine Silverline. All right. Now let's find out where the end of our show is.
My name is Ross Ritchie from Boom Studios and Make Mine Silverline.